Welcome, everyone, to the LCS Academy 2022, and we are getting ready for the games. I've got my two big brain casters with me. I'm Mazel, of course, joined by Mad Magical again, and a newcomer to this stream. I don't know if we invited him or who invited him. We got a literal bear. We got Cubby.
You didn't let him in?
I didn't let him in. I would never let a bear into the house. Like, that's just not what I'm going to do.
Told me
come on,
you
Magical.
were the one who invited him. Because I didn't invite him.
Well, somebody's lying.
I got an owl.
But in all
I'm here.
Welcome.
I don't know what else to say. But yeah, I'm excited to get into some of these games, and I think we got a couple of good ones in the early season, and also excited the fact that we actually have some gameplay to go off of instead of just our preseason guesses, as we had some good ones yesterday.
We definitely did, and we're definitely looking at these two teams that we're going to be looking at first, which is TSM Academy versus C9 Academy, both having, I would say, interesting days yesterday for different reasons. I feel like
a lot of the teams had very interesting days, especially TSM Academy. One, because game one, they had a really fun draft. They really big-brained that one, and that's what I'm looking at TSM Academy and some of their strengths. Their drafting, I think, is really far ahead because they have a player like Viper in the top lane who can play these marksmen, where you can easily swap around things, where you can say, hey, we drafted a Corki and Trindabeer, you think it's going to be Trindabeer top. Haha, psych, you now have just gotten yourself a Corki Malphite top lane matchup.
It's interesting that you say that their draft is ahead, and I will give you the fact that I think that there's a lot of flexibility between Viper and Takeover. But I think one of the defining things that we're seeing right now in this meta is what type of supports are you going to play? Yurson, someone that is known for engaged champions. 69 out of the 78 games that he played last split were on 4 engaged champs, right? Alistar, Leona, Rel, Nautilus. He's still playing that archetype to start off this season, whereas on the flip side, Keetong, someone who just stepped into the C9 roster literally last week, like got pinged 2 weeks ago to kind of be an emergency sub given the visa issues. The specialists when it comes to Enchantresses played 2 of them pretty well yesterday as C9 split that series. And I think we're going to see a big clash of styles going into this game, right? Can TSM break C9? Because it really feels like C9 are going for those later scaling comps, and I want to see if that's going to be the case. And yesterday, TSM did kind of struggle to get off the ground in Game 2, and then weren't able to snowball themselves getting off the ground in Game 1. So we're going to have to see if TSM can patch some of that up going into the second day.
But I like that you were kind of foreshadowing the C9 roster, because I do want to bring that up and kind of talk about this roster, because a couple last-minute subs just because of things going on in terms of visas and all that kind of fun stuff. But in all actuality, teams looking pretty good together. I like it.
Yeah, I agree. And, I kind of do like that you were also talking about Keetong Cubby, because we saw him over in Scouting Grounds, and he played the Enchanters. That's what he was a specialty for. Yumi, Lulu, those were the big ones that people kept target banning him towards, making sure he couldn't have those. And that was when it wasn't exactly considered like the go-to thing, right? It's like we had seen there's this, not the bans, the nerfs that had happened to them right beforehand that made it so that when we saw them at Worlds, sure, it was big, but going towards Scouting Grounds, not as much. Still, though, he was able to have a pretty good performance on that, and I'm curious to see how that's going to work against someone like Yurson, because you talked about the engaged supports, and Alistar's the only one that I really think of when I think Yurson. I think, how is he going to be able to play a champion like that Alistar now when the meta really has shifted away from that?
Yeah, and I think that for C9 as well, I mean, that Game 1, if you're a fan of LS being a coach of C9, then you got to go back and watch their first game, because it literally was like a massive draft kingdom. Like I don't think there was any way for COG Academy to get back in that game after the first 5 minutes. But I also think that early season, I mean, Copy and King are the returning members. And the fact that they're really focusing on funneling King, I know that the AD matchup is really something that we wanted to highlight, but I think that given this guy's history, I mean, he has won more OPL splits as an individual than any org has over there in the Oceanic region. And I know that he's been playing now for 3 years in NA, but it was really good to see King show off, why he had won so many splits and why he's so good in the first place yesterday.
And I want to piggyback off that really quickly, because we look at Copy and what he tends to play. He likes to play a lot of these roaming mid laners. Think the Twisted Fate. That has been pretty much permabanned against certain teams when they like that in their composition. And what does Twisted Fate like to do? Play towards the side lanes.
Yeah, and I think that leads us perfectly into the conversation that we do want to have focusing on the spot lane. You kind of mentioned it earlier, Cubby, but Instinct versus King, right? And I think that this matchup in particular, because of the way the meta is going, because of the focus on bot side, obviously it buffs it up a little bit. But these two players definitely have what it takes to be able to show up on these kinds of stages.
Yeah, and I think the really interesting thing is, so those stats are from yesterday. It was only 2 games, so we are going to take them too seriously. But what I do want to kind of focus on is actually the champions played, because in the 5 games that TSM have played between the lock-in stage and yesterday's Academy games, Instinct has only played Aphelios. Of course, King played pretty well on Jinx in both games yesterday as well. But I want to see if we kind of see these lethal tempo carries clashing again going into today, because I think that Instinct is someone that's really promising. 17, fresh off 100 Thieves next, someone that TSM fans should be watching closely as the newest piece of this roster. And then we all know what King can do. So really want to see if Instinct and Yurson can kind of step up and play into that. And I think that TSM are really going to need that, especially in the early game. They want to stick to their game plan they've been going for so far in the split and snowball games early.
They absolutely are. Well, guys, I got the tick in my ear saying we're ready to go. So take it away for game number 1.
Oh boy, I am excited to be able to get into some more League of Legends here for our Academy 2022 split. And we already see, look at that. We just jump in, and that is 3 enchanters banned by TSM. Leona immediately locked in by Kitong.
I think the fact that we kind of highlighted early, that difference in the meta, what kind of supports are you playing? TSM obviously sees this, and personally, I would actually love to see a Lux Caitlyn locked in here for the side of TSM.
Same.
Because something that I really kind of was pushing TSM Academy for this year is playing different styles. I think that last year, the fact that they had Sword and Takeover, swapping mid laners every single game, really kind of let TSM have their players specialize in one specific thing, and they would switch up players depending on how they wanted to play the game. In Academy, I kind of want to see players attempt to learn how to play the game in a lot of different ways and a lot of different facets. And I think that TSM were somewhat limited in the strategies that they ran last year, and I don't want to see that be an issue for them again. I know that Viper's champion pool is something that's exciting that has definitely led to a lot of different strategies for him, but I want to see Yurson expand his champion pool as well.
As do I, and I was actually expecting the Caitlyn to kind of be what Instinct would want to grab here with that Xin Zhao for Hyper, since we have, of course, the Lee Sin target ban towards Hyper. No one's going to really let him play his most comfortable champion, at least until we see some maybe hard nerfs towards it, but we just get Jhin for Jinx and then copy onto Corki.
So still a lot of scaling on the side of C9, as that was their theme yesterday. Really leading into Speedo, or Lawrence's blind picks, the artist formerly known as Speedo, with that Gragas and Ornn in the top side. And I know that I was talking about, seeing some different champions from Yurson, seeing him be able to show some different styles, but selfishly, it is the Rel locked in, and he is insane at this champion. So I am looking forward to seeing if he's able to pull it off. And I think TSM already have this early game plan set up, right? Get Rel out of lane, try and dive and pressure this Corki. I think that's going to lead to a lot of the bans in the next phase. I expect for C9 to take champs like Syndra, LeBlanc off the board here. Try and deny the pressure on the Corki early. And then Xin Zhao counters being getting rid of that could scale. Trundle, good ban.
Well, the thing that has surprised me a little bit more is seeing that Twisted Fate. I was talking about that before for Copy, something that likes to roam around the map and something they've put a lot of priority on. Skipped over, just completely ignored here, and we don't expect Takeover to play that. He likes far more the melee skirmishers in the mid lane. Sure, he can play other styles, but that's really where he's gotten his name on, is playing aggressively. Playing Sylas was the big one for me when I look back to 2021. When I think Takeover, I think Sylas, I think in-your-face aggression.
And I like the Tryndamere and Vaden band here. Just I was talking about kind of paying respect to maybe Takeover's champion pool in the mid lane. Seems like a lot of that respect for C9 is on the top lane with Viper. Tryndamere, of course, being a flex pick for TSM as well. And hey, that LeBlanc's open. I would not be surprised if we just see TSM lock that in right here for Takeover.
Same here. It's another one of those picks that he really likes to play, but instead, it is going to be the Victor to just have us with my least favorite thing, Corki and Victor, again, for the millionth time.
I know that you're not thrilled. I kind of am. Given the fact that Takeover, so I was talking about how TSM played different styles depending on which mid laner that they were playing. Takeover did not have a single competitive game on Twisted Fate, Victor, or Orianna last summer. those are 3 champions that kind of define the meta for mid and always find their way back in. So the fact that he's picking up Victor, this is his first competitive game on that since he has come over to North America. So looking forward to seeing him on this. We have the Gangplank blind and the Respawn with the Viego, and I would love to see this Lucian here from Viper as I think the way that Raz put it on Twitter, a marksman card-carrying top laner. Always a specialty for Viper and a very difficult matchup for Gangplank.
And there we go, locked in. I was about to say, watch me and watch you have to eat your words if Victor gets flexed top lane, but not going to happen. Not with the Lucian picked up here.
I do like
make
that
sure
in the Gangplank.
I mean, it wouldn't have been bad. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, watch, it's going to get flexed here just because TSM Academy, we never know if Viper and Takeover are just going to swamp things up. But it is Lucian into Gangplank, as you were talking about. Really good matchup. Plus, it's Viper on a marksman.
And I really want to keep our eyes on that top lane matchup as well, because if Gangplank is able to get ahead, you are looking at a Victor and a Jhin, right? These are 2 immobile carries that if they don't have flash, they can't escape the barrels, they can't escape the ultimate coming down from Gangplank. But it's a very difficult matchup for GP in that top lane. So I want to see if Frost Force is able to put some time and love in that top lane. And of course, if they are able to escape the early game, you have Corki, you have Jinx, you have the zone control with GP, you have all the range in the world to try and melt TSM. And I really like the scaling on C9's composition. Gonna have to see if they can utilize it once again, like they did in Game 1 yesterday, as they did split their series against COGA.
See, I'm glad you already brought up. I was just about to say, Cloud9, they played more for the late game, more for the scaling, while TSM, we looked to how they played yesterday. They were more for the laning phase, for win lane, win game, and we saw in Game 1 that it nearly worked. They had that Tryndamere to counter the Victor, constantly bullying him, solo kill even, for Takeover. But the problem was that they weren't able to really make that work when it came to the mid to the late game. They just couldn't find the proper fights. They got outscaled by Immortals and unfortunately fell. And then Game 2 was even worse. They never even got ahead in the laning phase, so it was really rough. Here, they have that win lane, win game against another scaling composition.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if TSM can maybe get another game on the Hextech Rift as well, as I think that portal usage really bit them yesterday as they tried to snowball that game through. But hey, it's a new Game 1, Mad Magical.
That it is, Cubby, and we have loaded up onto the Rift. Oh, TSM, you make me happy right now. Look what they've done, Cubby. They are all grouped together for some shenaniganery.
I do like this. We talked about how bad this matchup is for Gangplank. Well, if you get his flash, it gets that much worse.
Or what if you just get a kill? That needs to be better. As Lawrence walks right into them. No flash. It's first blood for Takeover.
Okay. All right. Well, TSM, congrats on the scouting report. That's first blood going over to your mid laner and a Doran's Ring for Takeover. I mean, this is something that the fact that Lawrence didn't burn flash is okay. Obviously, he was dead. But this Corki Victor matchup, I mean, we've seen over in LPL, Victor get a solo kill level 2. I believe that was Xiaohu versus Gory. We've seen the real way to beat Corki is to try and dive him early. Get him off those waves. Get Corki as far behind as possible, because once you get Mirror Mana, you have the mana pool to sustain in lane, and there's no way to really get you out. So with this Doran's Ring, I want to see if TSM are going to be able to attack this mid lane and really make Copy feel uncomfortable. Well,
especially because Copy started with the longsword, right? Not going for the corrupting pot start that you sometimes see into Victor, which means this level 1 is going to be brutal. Everyone talks about Victor's level 1 and how powerful he can be.
I love seeing Takeover really step up and play aggressively. And I think that some of the excitement behind Takeover as a player is that he can hit these really hype plays. A lot of the times he does this on melee assassins, as you properly pointed out earlier in this one, Mad Magical, but I want to see if he can do it on the Victor, on a mage, something that he's not as known for.
As do I. I always like to see this flexibility, but we're not seeing that from the bot lane. We're seeing the comfort come in for Yursan, while Keatong on the other side, he's the one kind of stepping outside of that zone, even though Leona is probably one of the, I wouldn't say easier engaged supports, but she's something that we've been seeing for a long time.
And I know that for Keatong, I mean, this is someone that peaked rank 5 on the ladder, pretty much playing Yuumi and the Enchantresses, but I know that from talking with Keatong as well, going to Scouting Grounds this past year, where he really got his first exposure to professional organizations, he was like, you know, this is a crazy experience for me, because he kind of figured out that he really needed to find his own identity as a support, right? He understands that he put a different champion pool to get towards that level of solo queue, and now he kind of wants to round his play out and say, you know what, Here's where I think I can fit in this meta. Here's where I think I can fit in this landscape as a player and kind of use my strengths and marry those with what might be meta at the moment. So the fact that Keetong is picking something like Leona, kind of curious to see how he's able to do on this as well.
As am I. I always like to see this kind of change, where players are willing to kind of step outside of the comfort zone, learn new things. It shows the growth, as you were talking about, especially after coming out of scouting grounds.
I like
it's
this.
Big growth, but this is big growth out of Hyper. Playing aggressively against Frost Force, trying to see if he can get him out of this jungle early on and really control the entirety of this map.
I like how Hyper, of course, pathing towards top, trying to help out Viper.
That's a fat minion wave stack.
Yeah, he's thinking about it, but Frost Force was here to cover. He has left, but he actually threw down the toothpaste on that wall and walked away. So I think that that's kind of making Hyper nervous that he's still in the area, and he might have bluffed him out of this.
Well, the thing is, they didn't get the flash off of Lawrence in that first blood. But
All right.
you do cancel that recall, so it will be Lawrence just walking a long way, maybe trying to feign that someone's nearby. The flash finally used, but it's going to be the follow-up. Hyper solo killing Lawrence.
Good play from Hyper. You can see that wave in the top side being denied yet again, and look at Lawrence's CS, 0206 CS, already down almost a level and a half to Viper's Lucian. And, I mean, this is where we kind of thought that TSM would win a lot of games because, I mean, Viper, he's someone that, I mean, he won all of Proving Grounds on an amateur team, right, last spring with NoOrg, and they did that playing through him. So the fact that TSM has really been leaning into his champion pool early and trying to empower Viper to be the carry of this team, I think that at the moment, that is their best path to success as King. He's in big trouble.
Using the heal to get a little bit of distance, but Yurson still threatening that he can just jump right back in, Chomper's thrown down, but King's going to be fine. Even though he's on top of Ward, I think he's trying to almost bait this out. Once they spot out that Keetong is up towards this river, though, I'm curious to see what's going to be the answer from TSM. They've got Hyper nearby.
Was a good scout word from Keetong as Hyper is able to clear it, but does get spotted. I think importantly enough, Hyper, Iron Spike Whip right now. Frost Force has yet to reset, so if Hyper sprints bot, Frost Force, even if he tries to contest this play on the map, still way down in itemization. Given the fact that that is the case, they don't know that Frost Force hasn't reset, but it feels like TSM, their bot lane, they're like, we're going to get this wave in on our own. We don't need the help, so Hyper just gets to keep on scaling. And a much improved look for Hyper this game, who in TSM series yesterday against IMT, I thought Hyper had a really tough time. So good to see him getting off to a good start here.
Yeah, I agree. It was, it's a big difference from day 1 to day 2 for Hyper here. Looking a lot better, but you got to continue that. You got to just play more for that mid game, not really allow your opponent, because that was the big thing that I kind of saw, was that a big problem for Hyper was what happens after these early games. Where do you go from here? And I actually kind of like this, that they're just putting so much into making sure Lawrence, another one of the scalers, there's so many scaling options on Cloud9, but if you take Gangplank out, what's he supposed to do, especially against Viper?
And Viper and Yurson even rotating up to this top side to try and dive Lawrence yet again. Viper has this low push built up, has a cannon still alive. After this wave is when they go. Frost Force is here to cover, but Yurson got around that wall unspotted.
And they
he gets
him.
spotted right here. Oh, this is so bad for C9.
Do they want to just try to go for Frost Force? No, they commit for Lawrence. And poor
It's a good
Lawrence,
call.
they are putting
He's
everything
doomed.
into Viper. They are putting it all to
Oh.
make sure that no matter what, he is fed as hell with another kill on a poor Lawrence.
I think there you can see some of these mechanics from Yurson on the rel, right? Knows that Lawrence doesn't have flash, just immediately goes for the flash EW. Even if Lawrence is able to orange out of that initial stun, you're still going to get hit by the next one. So I really like Yurson proactively burning the flash. And I mean, this is a support that we're really excited about because of his ability to see so many angles that other young supports just don't see on these engaged champions. I mean, he's able to find so many crazy things. It's Keetong.
No,
Oh, boy.
that's tragic for Instinct, but it's beautiful for King and Keetong. Getting that kill, the Zenith Blade. I don't know how that connected even with the Flash Cleanse.
No, it's really well played from Keetong. So that was a Zenith Blade Flash, one of the good basic Leona combos that you want to be able to land. Instinct, though, made the mistake. You have to wait till the Q comes down, cleanse that, and then flash away. He flashed away too early, so Keetong was able to follow through. And it looked like the traps weren't prepped in time, so Keetong didn't get caught out there. If the traps do prep in time, that's where you get stopped. You aren't able to follow through with the Zenith Blade. But I think Keetong kind of bent the bullet on that one.
He did. It was beautiful. Really nice play coming in from this bot lane, and that is a win condition, a big part of this Cloud9. We have the two dynamics, Cloud9 and TSM. Bot side of the map versus the top side of the map.
And, I mean, King has been the big focus, right, for the side of C9. And even yesterday, I know game 1, Lawrence did play Gragas into Dokka's Aurelia, which got a solo kill, got pretty fed in the game. It was kind of a draft canyon, but Lawrence went down 100 CS and was like, I'm just Gragas, man. I'm going to throw my weight around, throw these barrels around, and you're in big trouble. As, oh, no! No subs on Instinct. Goodbye.
We had a bully top lane for the side of TSM, but Cloud9 are bullying bot side. Instinct dying for the 2nd time. Lawrence might die for the 4th time. He eats some orange, though. He'll be okay.
I think he might have to ult this wave, which would be another cooldown out of the side from TSM, so he does. And yeah, on the flip side, Instinct can't be in that river when you aren't with your support, especially with no sums as a marksman. So a little bit of a mistake from the young player of TSM, but C9, good job of punishing, get that kill, get the dragon, and are actually in a game state where I know that Gangplank's pretty far behind, but it's Corki Jinx, right? I think that things are okay here for C9.
Exactly, and it's King with that early kill, too, for the side of Cloud9. They're getting more gold in the bot lane.
They zoned him off that wave.
Yeah, look at that. It's just as big as the top side difference for TSM.
It's going to be an interesting mid-game here, as it really is going to be Viper versus the world is what it feels like, because I think Instinct is a little bit too far out of the game, almost, at the moment. I think that things are going to get really tough for the side of TSM, just given the fact that if King gets one reset in any of these fights, I mean, the engages from Yurson and Hyper have to be very clean, because if King gets going, I don't think anything's going to be stopping him.
No, I don't think so either. Not when you're playing a Jinx, as Hyper is invading Frost Forest yet again, trying to bully around this Viego, but they're even inexperienced. The smite comes through for Hyper to secure that. Lawrence sees that and is like, I'm out. Nope, nope. I know what's about to happen.
Yeah, first brick over the side of TSM, and while the bot lane has been falling behind, it has been a clean top lane setup from Viper and Hyper, so good to see from them as first brick before 10 minutes, a fed Lucian. Curious to see what Viper can do. We've seen him carry a lot of games and a lot of these like this, so want to see if he's able to do it again this year.
And I want to see if they can really fix the mistakes that TSM had yesterday, where they had these early leads, where they were able to win out in their solo lanes. But then it all came apart when it came to the team fights, and then you just see what happens when you have a fed AD carry on the other side. A Jinx, no less. They just run rampant, and you're not able to stop it.
Yeah, and I think that Jinx plus Lulu, both games really helped with that, as King was able to step up and be protected, but this time a little bit less protection, just going to be really the Leona peeling and a Gangplank as well, so we're going to have to see if Jinx can handle the engages from TSM, and really want to keep our eyes onto Yurson, because I feel like he's going to be the one finding the engages and the angles, knowing this player in the past and knowing the fact that he has Rel in this game.
So, normally people would ask, you look towards poor Lawrence in this top side, and you're like, okay, what does he do to get back into this game? But we all know, it's Gangplank. You kind of hold it, you make sure that you're not falling more behind than you already are. But I want to know more what you think TSM can do to end this game quickly, especially before King can carry.
Ooh, I think that you have to utilize Viper's lead in this top lane to try and attack mid. I think that's the way I'd do it, is Yurson. Here he goes.
Yeah, they got the choppers down, though. That's a lot of damage. Looking for the 4th crit. Not going to be able to find it. Low. Oh, so close for the side of Instinct. It's Hyper now taking the aggression. He flashed on top of King. The flash away to be able to survive. Ketong's going to be the focus for Instinct to be able to get his first kill of the game, to be able to get a little bit of gold back against King. Hyper still threatening, though, to look for this dive. Still has a lot of power. He's got a Gore Drinker available. He dives back in. Looks for King. Might be able to get the 3 talent strike. He will, in fact, be able to get so. And Frost Force doing his damnedest to survive himself. When it becomes lightning, not going to connect, but it's all for Takeover to be able to show up. Looked for a little bit of damage, but it's going to be Frost Force safe with the kill still secured by TSM.
And I know that Hyper kind of struggled with some of the pathing yesterday, but the reason that he's in Academy, the reason that TSM has him on this team is because of his mechanics. And I think that fight, he did a really good job. That preemptive flash, just to make sure that he gets the knock-up on the King, force that flash out. It actually separated Ketong from the rest of the team. So it pretty much guaranteed the fact that TSM was going to get that first kill and run the rest of the fight from there. So well played by Hyper, who sitting at 2-0-3, has that Gore Drinker, has that 100% KP from the jungler of TSM. We said that they've been playing to kind of get things moving early and win the game from there, and Hyper's done a great job of making sure that his team's ahead in this early game.
And whenever I see a Xin Zhao played, that's what I want to see. I want to see this level of aggression, skirmishing capabilities that he has here at 13 minutes into the game. It's a really good change from what we even saw yesterday out of Hyper, where he was a little bit more lax. He wasn't really looking for these aggressive plays that we've known him to go for so many times.
And more aggressive plays coming as him and Yurson synced up, trying to take away the red buff as Ketong.
Oh, nice flash coming in from Ketong, but it's going to be a nice crescent strike onto him. Getting a little bit of damage. Copy's nearby, but so is Frostforce. They nearly got him down, and somehow, Hyper, how are you still alive? Viper shows up too. Copy wants to be able to get back, but he just cannot escape from Viper-Hyper duo.
And that was the big difference of the fight. When C9 started it, they did not know that Viper was here. And Viper just shreds through everyone with the help of Hyper as well, as the two of them are able to... I mean, this is now a critical lead on the side of TSM Academy. C9 down 5k gold, taking plays where they don't have the numbers, and things are starting to look grim for them as the second track of the game will be TSM's first as well.
And he didn't even get to talk about it in the fight just because I was so focused on Hyper and Viper. Takeover got a double kill. He got 2 kill credits in that fight, and that's now a 3-0 victor that you have. He's already got the loot, and he's already pretty powerful. While on the other side, Copy hasn't even gotten close to completing that Manamune.
I feel like we have to come up with a nickname for Viper and Hyper. It's I really didn't even realize that until this game. The fact that, you know, like kind of.
I realized that yesterday because sometimes you know they rhyme, so your brain will accidentally like mash them up, and you'll swap them over sometimes. And I realized I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting.
Alone, he's V1. Together, they're V2. The vegetable drink. We're gonna work on it. That was
we got to get 5 of them, and then we can just get the LPL team over here.
Yeah.
What? Well, no, they're part of Ninjas in Pajamas now, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, getting back into this game, we do have Copy with the package, going to get an objective bounty in the bot lane, but that should be all they're going to get with that package timer, whereas TSM, they're looking to respond on this top side, just ripping through Frostforce jungle, I should say, as Viper looking to take down this top inner as well. It's already low health. They should be able to get it.
So who's going to get Flame Horizon first, Hyper or Viper? V1 or V2?
I got V1, baby.
All right. You know what? At this rate, I'm kind of gonna go with V2. I think okay. Hyper's gonna be able to get it.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to see. They're doing a good job of working as a team to make sure they're taking away camps from this Viego, as Frostforce just here hovering to make sure the Copy's able to get that wave in, and C9 6k gold behind. I mean, they still have this Jinx Corki and all the range that they pack, but the fact that Hyper got fed early. I mean, keep in mind this ultimate, right? The Crescent Guard. You can only do damage if you're in range. And if you're this far ahead of Xin Zhao and you're a Jinx or Corki, you don't want to be in range for a while. So the fact that Hyper is able to kind of dictate his will across the map, picks up that second Rift Herald as a part of that, been taking the camps from Frostforce. Really good look for him, because I know that he was getting out-ramped by Chad yesterday in their series. This time, taking some of that revenge out on Frostforce, giving him the same treatment.
Pretty much just playing aggressively from moment one. That first level 1 shenaniganery top side to make sure they get the early kill for takeover, and then Viper just dictating that lane from there allows Hyper to have so much more control. He feels a lot more confident going for those invades on the top side. A lot of this has looked like a great change of pace out of TSM Academy. Like they've been able to really merge and work well together as a unit prior to that first day. It kind of seemed like they still had some hiccups.
Looks like the curtain call going to get canceled.
Alt for alt.
Yeah, alt for alt. As that is going to be thrown down on that side of the wall, but still should be able to crash. Looks like TSM might be looking for 2 turrets here with the setup they have.
I was about to say, I think that was on purpose, so it gave him time.
I
so
love
they could
this,
rotate towards Copy, looking to see if they can get the play. Oh, poor Copy. There's no escape for you. Valkyried right into instinct, man.
No, that was a really clever play from TSM, I think, right? They throw down the Herald mid. They kind of posture like, hey, we're going to be taking 2 turrets in this mid lane. At least that's the attempt, right? Try and get the second charge. And then they throw the feint, right? It's a bluff. They just sprint bot, take down Copy, kill the Corki, and they're going to take this turret instead. I really like that play, actually, from TSM. That was pretty clever.
Well, they get the tier 1 mid. They're going to get the tier 2 here bot. They've got Viper in mid lane to be able to crash another minion wave. And if they want to, they could rotate there as well. They've got all this macro pressure onto Cloud9 at this moment. And this is essentially kind of working the way we wanted to see it, right? Where TSM are able to utilize a lot of the power out of Viper, but even more so out of Hyper.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what I wanted to see out of TSM, especially given the fact that I know that as an academy team, they actually went to boot camp in Korea. So I know that I talked with Instinct before the match. I was trying to like fish around, like, hey, did you guys do anything fun? And he's like, nah, we pretty much just played solo queue and scrim Korean teams. But they did say that they learned a lot, especially Instinct. Of course, these are his first games of academy. So he feels like he's really starting to get a better identity of kind of what he can learn and grow into becoming. And he thinks that, this experience and the fact that he had the boot camp, now competing in academy, can really help him get there. So good to see some of the fruits of that shining, because I really think that TSM had a rough game or series yesterday, dropping that game 1 snowball and not able to turn it into a win. And then game 2 really just getting shut out by Pretty's Victor. But this time around, it's looking like they can convert this lead. This is a pretty big one.
It is a massive lead, but we are starting to see some of those objective gold bounces. That's the second turret that's granted a little bit of extra gold to the side of Cloud9. Sure, it's a massive deficit they still face here at 19 minutes into the game. 6,000 favoring that at TSM, and the majority of that is on the top half of the map. Or, wait, Takeover just solo killed Lawrence?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, good job, Takeover.
Good job, yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence going to be missing on the map. Dragon going to be taken by TSM as they find a win on both sides with their lead. And, okay. Hey, good for Takeover, right? His first competitive game of Victor in NA. It's looking pretty good.
I was about to say, you wanted to see him do well on Victor. Here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for Takeover, like, his role as the melee specialist, right? I like when players index towards their strengths. I just want to see them also be pushed, right? And in Academy, it's best of 2s. We have 36 games throughout the season. If you're not going to have a single game on someone like Twisted Fate, I know that Sword was the Twisted Fate specialist on that team, but in the future, if you're going to play on other teams, you need to be able to play TF, and kind of like to see that on stage just to get that confirmed. I have faith that these guys can play more champions than what they show on stage, but always nice to see them put some stage games on, because that's when you know that they feel comfortable enough to pull it out, right?
Right here, Hyper feels pretty comfortable to continue to bully Frost Force as much as he possibly can, since he knows they're not going to be really a reliable source of a backup from Lawrence, who's hanging around in the wings. But look at that, 0-4 on Gangplank, 30 CS still down from Viper. The rest of the team still struggling, and that's going to be a nice engage, an easy kill on a Frost Force. He should have bailed completely from that one. There's no reason to hang around there when you don't have any power from the rest of your team.
A part of it's that, but also, I mean, Yurson, his ability to pull the trigger and how quickly it is, right? He sees Frost Force and he's like, all right, let's go, right? If he doesn't buffer this with my ult, then he's dead. And that's exactly what ends up happening there as Yurson able to take him down. TSM starts up the Baron. C9, they do have a package. This could be dangerous for the side of TSM. I think they have to respect this.
They do, but look at how Takeover's posturing right now. Same with Yurson. Beautiful Hex Flash, beautiful ult coming in. Even though he dies, there's a lot of damage on the Ketong. Try to see if they can turn it around, but they got to be careful because they got the Cannon Barrage on top of Hyper. While Instinct was tanking the Baron that entire time. Use it. Come on, go for it. He doesn't want to. Still worried about the reinforcements that come in from TSM.
I think he's more worried about Viper, right? TSM's pretty split up, but he's looking at that scoreboard like, oh, that's a Gale Force and an Essence Reaver? I don't know if I can win that. So, going to hold on to that instead. Going to snowball that into the blue buff from the looks of things. And good fight from C9, right? We talked about the zone control they have, the poke they have, and TSM funneled it into that choke, enabled C9 to just put all their damage on one target, end up finding the kill, and make sure that TSM doesn't get that Baron.
Continues to keep the game going, which means more scaling for the side of Cloud9. That fallback win condition, well, not even fallback, that's been their win condition. That's what we expect from them. When we look at even how they've drafted yesterday, now going into today, they are really relying on making sure that, sure, they fall behind here in this early game, so they still can always rely on their Jinx. They can rely on that Corki later into the game, and it's going to be a safety Corki, too. It's going for that Immortal Shield Bow as opposed to going for Luden's Tempest.
I think, seeing how fed this in Zhao is, maybe Copy was like, I need to be able to utilize my auto attacks as well, right? As a lot of Corki games, especially when you go magic damage build, it's like, I can only use my R later in the game. If I'm auto attacking, I'm out of position. This is not one of those games going in the TSM. So, I like seeing that one from Copy. We'll hit that Evolved Mirror Mana soon, as there it dings in the inventory. Actually, a pretty nice spike for the side of C9 is still pretty far behind, but at least starting to scale.
We are. We're starting to scale. And I'm looking at the inventories. There it is. Muramana has finally finished for Copy. Finally was able to get the full stack out of that with the Immortal Shield bow too. Frostforce, though, is hanging around on the other side of the wings. Could be spotted out because he was spotted by that trap, but nobody wants to pull the trigger. They're still a little worried. It was good last time for C9 because Yurson went in when nobody from TSM was really in position to follow that up, but that's only going to happen once in a while.
And I think C9 right now, counting their blessings that they picked up that first dragon of the game, because this Infernal Dragon spawning in a minute, and I still don't think that C9 is in the position to want to contest. So I think that the move here is to let this one go to TSM, and then you look at the Soul, as that, of course, is a little bit risky, but I think fighting this much gold down, especially given the scaling that you have and the scaling that you'll have by that time of the game, I think it's the right call here from C9. So you can see them shifting their power into the top side, trying to play around this Baron. I think they're going to give that bot river up for free. And should let TSM get there as Frostfor is. Okay, sneaks out.
A little dicey. Same for Copy. He was pretty far out. I think TSM were looking to see if they could get either of them, but once Frostforce has spotted out the members of TSM, he's like, hey, Copy, get back. We need to be safe. They can easily rotate top, so he does. Nice play from Cloud9, continuing to play this defensive style so they can have the scaling like you talked about and make sure that they, even if they lose this dragon and its soul point potential for TSM, it's still not the soul itself.
Yeah, should be able to drop this one. And I also like something small, but just how they're seesawing the waves, right? Lawrence still rather far behind, able to pick up those waves in the bot lane when he was very safe. They saw the rest of TSM. And most importantly, saw Viper up top, right?
Wait, look at this.
What do you see?
Do you see what's going on right now? Oh, they didn't go for it. I saw Copy, King, and Frostforce positioning around the Baron. I thought they were going to pull the trigger and just try to see if they can go for the Hail Mary play. I got really excited for a second there.
I'm glad they didn't. I'm
glad they didn't either because it would have been
victor.
I mean, that's an incredibly risky play.
Yeah.
But you know what? I like risky plays, man. It's fun.
I'm all here for the fun. You know, I just want to balance it out with some good gameplay. Mad Magical. It's cat right. See, King agrees. He gave me the thumbs up.
Yeah. He's on your side. You know, it can't all be crazy like me. I understand.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm glad we got the mad scientist here. If no one saw that, check out the Path to LCS Twitter. We're going to put up a lot more content there, including Mad Magical's support Syndra, which we actually have seen played competitively in North America in the amateur scene, wildly enough.
Academy, mark my words.
All right, yeah.
Analyst here.
Mad Magical's coming for my job. That's fine. I know I can't come for his, so it's an intelligent move on his part. But
big brain still. See,
I know.
Intelligence. That's all what I'm about.
You're playing chess. I'm playing checkers. I'll pick it up as we go. But
I believe in you.
Speaking of pickups, I think the TSM, now that dragon's gone, we got 3 minutes and 30 seconds until the soul. I mean, this is the only objective to play for, and I like what TSM's doing here, right? Get the push, get vision. Then if you get push again, you have the choice to execute upon the play if you want. It is tough for them to execute, though, because Copy, it's not the poke build, but still going to be putting out pretty good damage with that Evolved Muramana on the ultimates. So I want to see if they can successfully, kind of poke C9 out with these Victor lasers, utilizing vision, and maybe get a health bar advantage enough that they can feel comfortable starting the Baron.
See, this is where I get a little worried for TSM, because the game has slowed down enough where there hasn't been a substantial swing of gold for them. They've gotten 1,000 within the past, 5-6 minutes over that of Cloud9. It's remained relatively stable for Cloud9. Even though they're now onto the Baron, this is what I need to see. This aggression. Force Cloud9 into your hands. You have all 5 members here, and you can easily look for a fight. That's beautiful from your side. Immediately, they burst down Frostforce with the snipes, 2 on to King. Kitung's going to be the next one with a 4th crit body blocked by Lawrence. He's got the cannon barrage if he needs to be able to scare off TSM from this objective. It's down to 25% health. Does he want to pull the trigger on that just to get them off of it? He doesn't do it, so it's going to be Baron secured by TSM with Lawrence flashing away. There's no reason for you to be there, buddy, even though Copy does have the package to scare off the members of TSM. You got to be careful.
And Copy, I mean, this package is late, right? It's after the Baron, so it's going to be for nothing, as TSM can just reset for free. And Yurson's Rel is just such a treat to watch. I mean, not only the mechanics behind it, but his ability to set up this vision. I mean, it was just impossible for C9, right? If they walked through that choke, they were going to die. If they didn't, they gave up the Baron, right? So they end up walking through. Yurson executes the play, and TSM keep this thing rolling as they're going to have... I believe they might have the Baron up for this Infernal Soul, which make things even more difficult for C9. And importantly for C9, they're not going to have access to the package.
No, it's Going to be a lost tool now gone here in just a couple of minutes when we have the soul point that TSM can grab for themselves. This aggressive play with Yurson scaring off the members of Cloud9. He's got an even shroud too, so anyone he locks down, that's so much more damage that Viper's going to be able to do to either of them, while Hyper's on the other side to be able to scare off Frost Force. They just get so much damage on a Keetong, diving into the back line. They got the stun they needed to, but he's right in the Crescent Strike to look for copy. Going to be the dive and kill for Yursong with the stun. Heartbreaker away. The turrets are falling on the other side for Lawrence, but all does that matter really when your base is getting broken into by TSM.
And King's getting chased by Takeover as King and Lawrence might try and lay a trap. It's going to buy a lot of time, though, for TSM as
Keep in
Takeover.
mind, he's got that stopwatch if he needs to. He's going to put down the gravity field, wait for the Chaos Storm, but it's going to be a nice zap coming in. King, though, gets blown up by Takeover. 1-for-1 trade. Viper's here looking for Lawrence. He's got the shield already gone, and he's got the damage to go on a rampage.
Oh, and Takeover, that damage on the... Oh, they just want to end.
Oh, this game's over. Viper and Hyper, they are so fed in this game that either one of them can easily solo their opponent. You can see that Frost Force just does not want to go anywhere near Hyper. They've cracked open the base. They've got the Baron. What can Keetong and Frost Force do here? There's nothing they really have. They don't have the damage. They don't have the items. This game is TSM's. They have locked it nice and secure with one final dive underneath the Nexus turret to look for Keetong once more. Kill coming in for Hyper. Frost Force falls to Viper. V2 take this game 1.
And I really like that look from TSM Academy. I feel like we're seeing some of the specialties coming through, right? A marksman counterpick for Viper in the top lane, your son's Rel, but then we're also seeing some new things. I love seeing that Victor being played by Takeover, and played well, of course. Starting off lane with a kill and an extra Doran's ring kind of helps, but hey, he was still able to take that lead, do a lot with it throughout the game, was netting solo kills across the map, and overall, I mean, a really, really good play from TSM Academy in that game.
Much, much better performance from day 1 to day 2. Like, honestly, I could only really see, like, maybe one mistake, and it was very minor. They played very well in that game, Hyper especially. Looking at how he was able to bully Frost Force throughout it all because of that first play in the top side, just that netted him all the control he needed to over his opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, not only the first play, but I also love the second play, right? Rotating with Yurson for the second dive, right? So I feel like that game plan from TSM, I mean, from the start, it was, we got Viper a matchup he feels like he can win the game on. Here's how we're going to support him. That's exactly what ended up happening. And I mean, props TSM, right? I like when we see teams go for maybe more risky win conditions here in Academy, or also go for things that are going to push them in their play. I feel like TSM had a nice draft there to show off some of those specialties and show what they can do if they get a good draft. And they were able to execute a rather clean win against Cloud9 Academy.
That they did, and they take their first win of the spring split. We're going to toss to a break. When we come back, we'll have our beautiful host, Mazel, with us.